Welcome back to the online sessions on analog electronic circuits. Dear students, I think you might have performed very well in the external examinations which has been done. So we have got a long back of more than 1 month. So long gap of more than 1 month, and we are once again continuing with our discussions on the analog electronic circuits. So we have completed almost 30 unit part, and last part we are left over, that is called the regulators part. So we have series and shunt regulators in the syllabus. So prior to that, I think we discussed about what is a regulator all about. So regulator is normally going to give us a pure constant output voltage irrespective of changes in the input voltage or in the load current. So that means due to the changes in the load conditions, due to changes in the output resistances, or due to changes in the input resistance of the amplifier circuits, what happens is something like sometimes the current which will be flowing will be somewhat oscillating with respect to the bias current, and thereby what happens is the regulator is normally going to change its output voltage. And we already know that what is a regulator. It's something like regulator, the practical application of regulator is something like your adapters. So chargers, mobile phone chargers. Okay, mobile phone charger is the best example of a regulator circuit. Okay, so we were discussing on this particular aspect or on this particular topic of regulators. Okay, so what is so important in this particular subject is that the first unit is very important, of course, and we discussed there as a small signal amplifiers in the first unit. So the most important part in the amplifier circuit is going to be the AC equivalent circuit. You should be in a position to draw the AC equivalent circuit, and you should be in a position to analyze that AC equivalent circuit to find out the input resistance, the input current, the input resistance, the voltage gain, the current gain, okay, and the output resistance. So these are the primary requirements from any circuit that we really going to discuss. So that means almost all the units are normally going to have the basic circuit diagram, and next AC equivalent circuit diagram. So you should be in a position to draw the AC equivalent circuit from the given circuit, right, using the two-port network. So if it is going to be a small signals low frequency amplifier, we use H parameters. If it is going to be a small signal high frequency amplifiers, we normally going to use the pi model. Okay, so these two are the two basic methods which we have to analyze the circuit under AC conditions. So AC equivalent circuit is a circuit which will be drawn by considering only the AC voltages and AC currents. So we are not going to consider DC currents when we draw the AC equivalent circuit. So we assume that the circuit is perfectly working good under the DC conditions. Under the DC condition means what? A proper establishment of the biasing conditions. That means if DC conditions are good, we say that the biasing is done perfectly. There is no problems with biasing. So biasing is really 100% working fine. So because biasing is fine 100%, irrespective of changes like temperature, aging, beta value, whatever may be the changes, but still the basic condition should be always fixed. That means the Q point should be fixed. So due to proper biasing, the Q point is going to be fixed in the operation of the amplifier circuits. So if the Q point is fixed, what does it mean now? The DC conditions are not going to change. Next, after we establish the perfect DC conditions, after we establish the Q point at the stable point without making the Q point to oscillate. So if the Q point is going to get adjusted to be at the center of the active region all the time, then we say that we have achieved the biasing. We have achieved the proper biasing, and we should ensure the biasing conditions to be there or to be true for the entire operation of the circuit, even after we apply the input signal as AC to the amplifier circuit. So amplifiers are going to process AC signal based on the DC biasing. So this is what important point for us. So therefore, establishing of DC is a very important point for us. So after we establish perfect DC conditions, we say that biasing is perfectly done. DC biasing is done perfectly. So now after DC biasing is done perfectly, we allow the AC signal to pass through the amplifier circuit. That means we always allow the changing signals onto a non-changing conditions. So then only we can able to observe the change which is happening because of the changing signal. Otherwise, what happens if DC is changing, AC is also changing, then we cannot understand the operation of the circuit for the changing input AC signal. Therefore, we have to compulsorily establish the proper DC conditions by the process of biasing. So after biasing is achieved, then we assume always that the circuit is working fine with proper biasing conditions throughout the lifetime of the circuit. So under that assumption, we simply go to the AC equivalent circuit. So from first unit onwards, we don't have the DC biasing conditions in the syllabus. Straight away from first unit, we start with the AC analysis part. But even then, I've discussed in brief about the DC biasing at the beginning of the course, because it is very much essential for us to understand the necessity of DC biasing. So after we achieve proper DC biasing, we simply apply the input signal as AC. So that is what the basic thing which we have discussed. So the first unit is going to speak about the analysis part of the AC equivalent circuit of the amplifier circuit. So once you know the analysis part, how to do analysis, that means how to draw the H parameter model of the transistor circuit, then how to deduce the parameters such as input resistance, current gain, voltage gain, and output resistance of the amplifier circuit. So once after we know these basic things from the circuit diagram, that means here you have to solve this analysis part. You have to compulsorily practice this analysis. If you practice, then only you are normally going to get the concepts of the AEC subject. Why? Because in AEC 60% portion in the examination will be given from the problems. Only 40% is going to focus on the theory part. So therefore, the scoring is going to be easy if you practice in the AEC subject. If you practice AEC problems, that means analysis part, then you can definitely score well in this AEC subject. So the scoring is because why we can just say, why I can say that you can score definitely. Why? Because the examiner cannot change the problem. The problem always remains same. So it is going to be a mechanical solution. The solution towards the problem given is always going to be fixed. That means the steps of reaching to the solution is always going to be fixed in the case of the AEC problem analysis. Because the steps are fixed, if you practice those steps, they won't change. They remain as it is for all the topics which are there in this particular subject. So therefore, first unit is very, very important unit for all of us, because using which we normally going to understand how to draw the AC equivalent circuit and how to analyze that particular circuit to get the parameters of the amplifier circuit. Okay, so that means what? First unit is, that is why so important. And second unit is going to be what? Feedback amplifiers. Feedback is going to consist of negative feedback amplifiers and positive feedback amplifiers. We discussed about both negative as well as positive feedback amplifiers, and we discussed negative feedback amplifiers are preferred. The first and foremost point why the negative feedback amplifiers are preferred is only preferred to get the stable output. To get the stable output, we normally going to use the negative feedback amplifiers. The negative feedback amplifiers, even though the name sounds negative, but it is used for to achieve stability, not to disturb the output of the system. So you should apply negative feedback only to stabilize the output of the system, not to distort the output of the system. So that is why negative feedback is normally used. And apart from this, there are other advantages of negative feedback. It reduces the noise. It reduces the noise at the output side of the circuit, and it's simply going to increase the bandwidth of the circuit. That means the gain bandwidth product is usually going to be same. Based on that, we say that the bandwidth of the amplifier circuit is simply going to get increased because of the negative feedback. So more the bandwidth, acceptable bandwidth for amplifier to process, better is going to be the circuit. We know that. So that's why the negative feedback amplifier is going to be useful in the practical applications. The next amplifier is going to be called as a positive feedback amplifier. Positive feedback amplifier is also known as an oscillator circuit. The oscillator is normally going to have a positive feedback connection. So in this, we discussed about various types of oscillators, such as RC oscillators, LC oscillators. We discussed, and we just started with the shunt regulators. That means we started the subject called a regulation. Okay. So regulation means what? Getting the, using a regulator, we normally going to get the constant output, constant signal at the output of the circuit, irrespective of changes in the input signal as well as changes in the load current. So irrespective of these two conditions, the output always going to remain constant. Okay. So usually these regulators are going to be used. Regulators are going to be used at the input of the electronic circuits, because all electronic gadgets normally going to operate using the constant DC voltages or constant DC currents. So the signal given to the electronic circuit should always be constant, should always be fixed. If you make the electronic circuit to work at 5 volts, it has to work at 5 volts only. The input given to the circuit should always be 5 volts with a little margin. The margin, the threshold value is going to be only 5% or around 3% of the overall acceptable range for the circuit. That means if the electronic circuit is operating at 10 volts, so 5% of 10 volts is the tolerance level that you can really accept. It can accept for a change. More than that, electronic circuit is not going to accept. It is simply going to get damaged. That means if the electronic circuit is damaged, means what? First reason is that it should be because of the voltage that you are applying it to the electronic circuit or electronic gadget. That is what the main problem which we are going to have. So the circuit which is normally used to provide a constant output voltage, a constant DC output voltage, is known as a regulator circuit. This is what we discussed, and we started the regulators chapter in the previous sessions. So I just once again go through a glimpse of it. Already we discussed regulators. I just wanted to give a brief once again same introduction of the regulator circuits now. Okay. So we discussed about the basic block diagram of a overall regulator circuit. So the regulator circuit is simply comprising of all these elements, and basically we apply the AC signal, and the electronic gadget always require a DC signal to operate. So therefore we get a DC signal by using all these various blocks. We discussed about that. So already we have introduced this in the rectifiers chapters. In the previous semester, you discussed about rectifiers in the electronic devices subject, where we discussed about rectifiers. So the output of rectifier with filter is given to the regulator circuit. This regulator is normally going to give us a pure DC signal. So once if I say pure DC signal, what I mean by saying it, irrespective of the small changes in the input signal, the output should not change. The output should be always 5 volts, irrespective of changes in the input signal or changes in the load current. So by doing so, we have to get the constant voltage. Then only you can use this constant voltage to operate an electronic gadget or electronic device. So this is what the basic circuit diagram we have seen in the last session. And regulator circuits are going to come up as series regulator circuits and shunt voltage regulator circuits. So we have these two in the syllabus. So why we use regulator? It is normally designed to keep the output voltage constant. This is what we are showing. Output voltage is constant. DC means what? Constant voltage under varying input and load conditions. So load voltage condition. This is what we have discussed. And in this, we have two important regulators called series regulator, shunt regulator. Series means what? If the control element comes in series to the load. Yeah, now at the output of this, you normally going to connect a load resistance. If the control element is coming in series to the load current, then we simply call it as a series voltage regulator circuit. Okay, so which is normally going to give us a constant output voltage for a infinite duration of time period. That means even though the input is changing continuously, but output is not going to change at all. So that if we can say, if we say that the output is always fixed, then you can rely on this. If you could rely on the output of this, you can apply it to the electronic gadgets. Okay, so usually AC mains, we apply the input signal from the AC mains. So AC main signal is not going to be always constant. The AC voltage coming from the AC mains is simply going to vary from 110 volts to 250 volts. It won't be really constant, in fact. So that means the output voltage cannot change as the input voltage changes. If you go to the only simple rectifier circuit, the output, the DC output voltage of rectifier with filter is going to change if the input voltage is going to change within a threshold, of course, but still that change is also not accepted for the electronic gadgets to operate. So therefore, we can use this series voltage regulator. Then next we have seen another circuit going to be called as shunt voltage regulator. So what could be the control element in the shunt voltage? We can think of now. The control element should come in shunt to the load resistance. If the control element comes in shunt to the load resistance, it is going to be called as a shunt voltage regulator. If the control element comes in series to the load resistance, then it is going to be called as a series regulator. So that means the series and shunt voltage regulator definitions is purely based on how the control element is connected to the load. That's all it is. If the control element is connected in series to the load, it is going to be called as a series voltage regulator. If the control element is connected in parallel or in shunt to the load, then it is going to be called as a shunt voltage regulator circuit. Now, you should explain. I've already explained this particular, operations now. These points, these 5 points, you should explain clearly. Okay, in the examination. So you should draw compulsorily in the, if at all any question is asked on regulators, whether it may be a series voltage regulator, shunt voltage regulator, then you should draw the basic block diagram of regulator. Then if it is specific about a particular regulator like transistorized series regulator, then you have to draw the transistorized series regulator. You have to explain the operation of that also. So then only your discussion is going to become complete in the exam. So drawing block diagram is going to give you more marks than writing theory. So for example, if the question is asked on that write a short notes or explain briefly about transistorized series voltage regulator, then please draw this particular block diagram. Then this flow, represent this flow of operation, and write one paragraph if possible, this flow of operation. Okay, if time permits. Otherwise, you need not go for all this also. You can just simply say that the operation of the series voltage regulator is normally going to get followed by this particular following flow of operations, such as like this. You can simply draw like how I have drawn here now. Then you can draw the transistor series voltage regulator actual circuit diagram. Then you can explain that particular circuit diagram. Then you can expect the full marks for this particular circuit. Okay, for this particular explanation. So always in the electronic circuit design and all, you should draw compulsorily, if at all it is there, If at all it is known to you, draw the block diagram, draw the input signal, draw the output signal, then draw the exact practical circuit. Okay. Then when you do all these things, then the examiner is totally going to get impressed on what you have written. Then you normally going to get full marks for this particular question. So because it is theory, this is a totally a theory question. So for theory question, to answer theory question, what are the basic prerequisites you have to follow? You have to compulsorily draw the block diagrams, draw the input and output waveforms. You have to draw the underlying guiding equations for that particular circuit, and you should compulsorily represent the flow of processes that are going to get involved in this particular circuit for its operation. So when you put all these things, then only you can expect full marks for that particular subject. So this is the reason why students are losing the marks in the end examinations, even though they know the concept, but they fail in representing that whatever they know in a more effective manner in the examination paper. So that's why possibility of reducing marks is going to be that. Okay, anyway, so please draw this particular block diagram first, then draw the flow. So what is the flow that you're going to have? So the first condition what we can take is something like if the output voltage changes above the reference value, then what happens? See here, what is the main part here? The output voltage should be kept constant. Now here, all these operations are going to happen in a very quick succession. Very quick means what? In less than 1 microsecond time period, these operations are going to get processed. All these operations are going to get implemented or processed in less than 1 microsecond time period. That is why the user of the system will not notice these many operations are happening in the circuit. He feels that he has got the output immediately. Okay, so that is the beauty of the electronic circuit results. Okay, so that means what? Say for example, you are sending a mail to your friend. So as in when you send a mail or you are chatting with your friend on the what is that, WhatsApp, that is a simple example. So you feel that you both parties are in conversation continuously. You feel that it is continuous, but it is not continuous. Okay, but the only thing is that the human eye is going to retain the signal over 1 millisecond of time period. 1 milli to 1 microsecond signal time information you can able to retain in the brain. So with that illusion effect, what happens is that if you make the system execute fastly, more than your retention level, then your eye cannot observe the change. Okay, so that is what the something like illusion, the illusion of the human being eyes and mind is taken as an advantage while making the electronic circuit to operate. That means if you increase the speed of the electronic circuit to operate, the human being cannot notice the change. He feels that everything is happening immediately. That is what the thing. So therefore, but in the operations, you're going to write in sequence, but all these set of operations are happening in just a microsecond duration of time period. So therefore, we really never notice that these many things are happening inside the system. So that is the speed of the electronic circuits which are going to operate. Okay, so that is what the advantage of electronic subject in as such. When you go to mechanical, when you go to civil, when you go to chemical engineering and all, the reactions are not going to be that fast. Whereas coming to electronics, it will be immediate to the human senses. So therefore, the electronic gadgets are really going to be used in automation systems and all these things. Okay. Anyway, that is what the basic thing we have. So, but even though don't get confused that sir, these many operations are continuously happening, and how come this much time? The time used required to complete all this is going to be 1 microsecond, less than 1 microsecond. So therefore, that is the reason why what happens is that we feel that things are happening continuously. Okay, so so therefore you have to explain the operations in sequence. You should keep in mind that these operations are happening in just fraction of seconds. Okay, all electronic gadget operations, computer operations, okay, communication operations, all of them are happening very fastly. Okay, that is the reason why nowadays more the speed of the operating system, more the speed of the processor, and more the memory that you're going to use in the computer, it is going to be more useful for us, right? More the speed, more is going to be the processing of the signals, so better results we can give it to the end user, because the end user always wants the response immediately. So he wants the response just after he gives the input signal. That's what the response he expects all the time. But system, that means that is possible only when the system speed is going to be more. Okay, that's the thing which we're going to have. Okay, so what is the logic here? What is the main logic which is implemented to process this regulation? First of all, we assume that the output voltage changes or increases. Changing means what? It may increase, it may decrease. So we just taken a condition here that output voltage increases. If the output voltage increases, then what should happen now? The feedback also should increase. If feedback increases, the control signal we apply should also increase. That means if the output voltage increases, the feedback signal should increase. That means because of this feedback, that means it should sample more amount of current. If it samples more current, then the control signal we apply to the control element is also going to increase. So now here we are going to use this negative feedback concept here. Negative feedback means what? If this is IN, if this is IF, control signal current, if we assume it is IF, input signal is anyway IN. So IN minus IF is going to be the output voltage. So output across, the voltage across the control element is also going to increase, and output voltage decreases back to its original value. Okay. That means what here? Because of this negative feedback, the amount, the portion of the current which has been increased, which has been compensated by decreasing the overall current because of this particular negative feedback applied over here. Okay. So these operations can be done by using only definitely a negative feedback configuration circuit. Okay. Now, whatever that control signal we apply, it should be based on the reference voltage. What is the reference voltage? Reference voltage depends on the operating voltage of the electronic circuit. If the electronic gadget is operating at 5 volts, that is known as the reference voltage for us. So this reference voltage source is always going to give us a 5-volt signal. And a comparator is going to compare the signal coming from here with respect to this. Then appropriately control signal is normally being generated. So this is what the basic block diagram which we're going to have. Okay. So as it is involving with a feedback, then definitely feedback means what? It is going to have the sampling circuit. It is going to have the mixer circuit. So this control element is going to have mixing operation, sampling, and a feedback circuit. So this is what going to be the feedback configuration which you're going to have, which we discussed already. So this is called a series connected regulator. Then similarly, if you come to the shunt regulator, if you see, the control element is going to come in shunt to the load. If it is coming in shunt to the load resistance or load, we call it as a shunt voltage regulator. See this, the control element is coming in shunt to the load current. How do we distinguish between series and shunt? If it is with respect to current, if different currents are flowing through control element and the load, we say that these two elements are connected in shunt. That is what the basic thing which we normally going to have. So apart from that, everything is going to be same. Everything means what? The sampling circuit is going to be same. You're going to have the comparator circuit, and you're going to have reference voltage circuit. This comparator voltage, reference voltage, and feedback signal is applied to comparator. Comparator is going to give the output voltage which is applied to the control element. So that means what? The logic is going to be same, but only thing is the control element is going to be in shunt to the load if it is going to be a shunt voltage regulator, which we discussed. Now, What happens here now, if the output voltage, if the output increases above the reference regulated voltage, then definitely the feedback is also going to increase. Feedback increases, control signal increases. Control signal increases means what? The current ISH through the control element is also going to increase. If this control signal increases, it's going to draw more current. So when it draws more current, the output load current decreases because they both are in shunt. So this control element is going to take more current. When it is taking more current, load is going to take less current. That means whatever may be the increase in the load current is going to get decreased by this particular control element. So because IL decreases, V0 is also going to decrease. Because what is V0? V0 is equal to I into RL. So IL into RL is going to be the output voltage. So as IL decreases, definitely V0 is also going to decrease. That means due to some conditions, external conditions or internal conditions of circuit, whatever it is, if the load voltage changes, then we are compensating this change in load voltage. If load voltage V0 increases, what happens? Feedback increases, control signal increases, and ISH control element shunt current is going to increase and load current decreases. Thereby output voltage decreases. So this is what the flow of operations which is normally going to get involved in this circuit. And another question we will be getting continuously in the exam is going to be the comparison between the series regulator and the shunt regulator. Compare series voltage regulator and a shunt voltage regulator. Comparison between these two is also going to be a very, very important concept in the syllabus that we have. Okay. So we discussed all these differences in the last session. Okay, so you can just simply enumerate. You can start with discussions with the basic block diagram. Then you can just simply speak about the basic principle of operation of it. Then after that, you can just simply explain about its regulations part, efficiency part, then advantages in terms of design part, and practically what elements are normally used. What circuits are normally called as these type of regulators. Let's say Zener regulator is going to be called as shunt voltage regulator, transistor shunt regulator is going to be called as shunt regulator, and series feedback type regulator is going to be called as a transistorized series type of the regulator circuits. Okay, and series regulator is going to provide a very good regulation than the shunt voltage regulator circuit. Therefore, series regulators are preferred in the practical applications than the shunt voltage regulators. Well, you can just go with these differences carefully and you can just simply enumerate these differences. Okay, so each difference is going to get half mark for you in the exam. Half mark means what? You have to draw two. Say control element is parallel to the load, control element is series to the load, and you are drawing these block diagrams. These two combinedly going to give you half mark. Like that, these two combinedly give half mark. So differences means what? It is going to be a high level question. It is going to be a level 3 question. So level 3, level 4 questions means what? You should write more information with less words. That is what called a high level question. Okay, so that's what we are writing differences. So many students will write only one point and they skip another point. They expect the mark. They should write both, then only you get half mark. So like this, if you write 4 points, you will be getting 2 marks. For 2 marks bit, you have to write 4 points. For 3 marks bit, you have to write 6 points. So if the question is for, say, differences is there for 8 marks, okay, then it is better you write more number of points. Okay, more the points, better is going to be the thing you're going to have. So for 2 marks especially, better you write 4 differences to get 2 marks. Then nobody will take 2 marks from you because you have written the 4 points in the end examination. Okay, so these are the differences. Next session, what we do is we discuss in depth, in detail about the transistorized regulators. That means we consider the practical circuit and we discuss about how a regulation is achieved by these practical circuits. Thank you very much for the today's session.